Hello, and welcome to Life Diaries, a space where the pages of life open up, one story at a time. These are tales written by experience, spoken from the heart. Take a moment for yourself, and let's begin. I've had enough. How much more can they mock me? Am I some kind of object to be ordered around like this? I definitely won't stand for this. Sarah sharply threw off her surgical cap. It flew a short distance and landed at her feet. The young woman buried her face in her hands and let out a muffled groan, bursting into tears. Her friend Laura reached out, trying to comfort her, but Sarah sharply pushed her away. Laura sighed heavily and went to the table to pour her some water. "Calm down," Laura said softly. "I think everything will still become clear. You told the absolute truth, didn't you? Dr. Baker will certainly sort everything out." Dropping her hands, Sarah stopped sobbing and said sharply, "She'll sort it out? Oh, come on, Laura. Take off your rose-tinted glasses. Has it ever happened, even once, that a situation was resolved in favor of a nurse? You know our chief physician. She'll never admit her own mistake and always takes the side of the doctors. And she covers for James especially fiercely. She's ready to sweep away anyone who dares to go against him. I understand there's something behind all this, but that doesn't concern me. However, when they framed me so vilely and then punished me on top of it, I'm ready to tear everyone to shreds." Laura glanced anxiously at the door of the nurse's station and quickly stepped towards it to close it more tightly. Then, lowering her voice to a strained whisper, she said, "Sarah, speak softer. If someone hears, it'll be reported upstairs instantly." "I don't care," Sarah snapped. "Let them report me. What else can they do to me? I got a reprimand, a note in my employment record. Check, they took away my bonus, cut my salary for the next few months. And who knows what will happen next? If it goes to court, no one will defend me. This is just unbearable. I'll just write my resignation letter." Sarah again buried her face in her hands and let out a muffled growl. Laura sighed deeply again and went over to her friend. Sarah had always been quick-tempered, but today she had just exploded. Laura searched for the right words to calm her down. "Oh, Sarah, stop it. Don't talk like that. Do you think anyone has it easy right now? It's the same everywhere, and the attitude is the same. You'll just be trading one bad situation for another. You've been here for 4 years. You're used to it. You know the team, and the job suited you. If you leave, you'll have to look for a new place, and who knows what you'll find. Maybe something worse. Come on, drink some water. Calm down, dear. I have to run to surgery, or the surgeons will eat me alive. Come on, pull yourself together." Briefly hugging her friend, Laura hurried out of the nurse's station. Sarah was left alone with her thoughts. In her hand, she clutched the glass of water. Looking at it, she replayed the recent events in her mind. Sarah had started working at this hospital 4 years ago. None of the surgeons were eager to work with an inexperienced scrub nurse. Sarah was moved from place to place, but the young woman quickly managed to earn the doctor's trust. At first, she was met with skepticism, but she performed her duties flawlessly, carried herself with confidence, and soon became the permanent nurse for one older surgeon. She only had to work with him. Only occasionally did she fill in for sick colleagues and work with other doctors. She worked with this surgeon for a little over 3 years, and then a misfortune occurred. The older doctor suffered a stroke. He was saved, but he could no longer work and retired due to health reasons. For about 2 months, Sarah worked with different doctors, and then a new surgeon was hired. This was the young Dr. James Miller, and Sarah was assigned to him as his permanent nurse. At first, the young doctor aroused Sarah's sympathy, and not just professionally. She felt an attraction to him, but soon learned that he was married. This upset her, but not too much. The main thing was that he turned out to be a good specialist, someone she could get along with easily. However, Dr. James Miller was not so simple. He had a difficult character. He could be cheerful, but he knew how to put people in their place when he deemed it necessary. Sarah quickly realized that he treated the middle medical staff with slight disdain. And when she saw how he spoke to an orderly, she understood that the junior staff were simply invisible to him. Well, that happens, and often. Sarah wasn't very lucky, but she quickly learned if she didn't argue with him and followed all his instructions, she could live peacefully. There would be no conflicts with the doctor. At the same time, Sarah began to notice something amiss between the chief physician, Dr. Helen Baker, and James. She often called him into her office, and James would leave her looking clearly pleased. No one dared to speak about them aloud because everyone knew the chief physician's difficult temper. She couldn't stand gossip in the hospital. And if she found out what people were saying about her, the ones spreading the rumors would be instantly fired. No one risked getting involved with the management. Sarah also kept quiet. She was indifferent to what was happening between them. Only the significant age difference was awkward. Dr. James Miller was 15 years younger than Dr. Baker. She was under 50, and he was only 35. But tastes, of course, vary. If there was something between them, it was their private matter. And then what happened, happened. Today, Dr. Baker called her in and gave her a real dressing down. It turned out that a few days earlier, they had operated on a patient, and during the night, he suddenly got worse. They had to urgently call Dr. James Miller, but he lived far away, and they would have had to wait a long time for him. The patient underwent emergency surgery, and 3 gauze sponges were removed from his abdominal cavity. Hearing this, Sarah went cold. She immediately understood who they were talking about. It was after that surgery that Sarah hadn't counted the instruments and supplies. This was her direct duty during every operation, and she was about to do it, but Dr. Miller gave her a different task. That day, he was in a hurry to get somewhere. "Sarah, run quickly to the station. My suit from the dry cleaner should have been delivered there. I warned the nurse on duty. Pick it up quickly and bring it to the doctor's lounge. And while you're at it, make me some coffee. I love your coffee. You have some special proportions. It turns out so tasty. Hurry up." "But Dr. Miller, I haven't finished counting yet." Sarah tried to object, but he interrupted her. "Don't worry, I'll check everything myself. Everything will be fine. The surgery went smoothly and quickly. I'm sure we did everything perfectly. I'll check everything myself. You go and do what I told you." Sarah looked around helplessly. No one had heard their conversation. The surgeon had spoken quite softly. Well, if he was going to take care of the check himself, all the better. And Sarah hurried to carry out her doctor's instruction. Now Dr. Baker was demanding an explanation for how the gauze sponges ended up remaining in the patient's abdominal cavity. If Sarah hadn't checked the count, it was a severe violation. "I really didn't check the count of the supplies," Sarah whispered barely audibly. But only because Dr. Miller said he would check everything himself. Dr. Baker frowned. "Are you trying to justify yourself too? What are you talking about? Is a doctor supposed to perform a nurse's duties? What kind of procedures are these?" "But it's true, Dr. Baker," Sarah protested. "Dr. Miller gave me that instruction. I wanted to finish my work, but he sent me to the station. He told me not to worry himself." Dr. Baker slammed her fist on the table and stood up abruptly. "How dare you lie so shamelessly? You impudent girl! Did you decide to blacken the name of a respected specialist? What do you gain from this? Did you set your sights on him, and he didn't reciprocate? Is that it? Are you out of your mind? Dr. Miller has a wife. He's a decent man and wouldn't cheat on his wife." But I'm telling the truth, Dr. Baker," Sarah protested. "And I'm telling you again that you're lying brazenly and being rude on top of that. Do you think I haven't spoken to Dr. Miller? I already called him into my office this morning, and he told me everything. the chief physician snapped. Sarah sank onto the chair helplessly. Looking at the chief physician in confusion, she quietly mumbled, "And what did he tell you?" Dr. Baker smirked. "As if you don't know. He told the truth. That he asked you to finish your tasks quickly because he urgently needed to go to the station to pick up his suit. And you yourself offered to run there while he did your work, and then finish the surgery with another nurse. And he strictly told you that you must finish your work first. Why did you do that? Why did you say you had counted everything? Why did you frame him like that? You lied, abandoned your work, left, and yet the doctor trusted you. Well, if you thought your stunt would go unpunished, you are mistaken. Now you'll get the full consequences." "But that's not true," Sarah exclaimed. "Dr. Miller said he would do everything himself and sent me for the suit. I wanted to finish my work, but he wouldn't let me. Why did he frame me like that?" Dr. Baker stared intently at her subordinate. Then she said, "You know, I understand your motive. I can guess the reason. You wanted to get revenge on the surgeon because he didn't succumb to your charms, and you decided to slander him. But you didn't consider one thing. These were your duties, and you didn't perform them. And now you will answer for it. If the hospital is sued, you will be the one to answer. You could go to prison or pay compensation to this patient who almost died for the rest of your life. That's how it is. Understand? And for now, I will punish you properly. You are losing your bonus for 6 months. You will only receive your base salary without allowances. I will try to make sure there is a note of dishonesty in your employment record. If you decide to quit after such a note, no one will hire you anywhere else. Now go. I find you disgusting to look at, you liar." Sarah could no longer force out another word of justification. The chief physician didn't believe her anyway. She was entirely on Dr. Miller's side. Dr. Baker protected and covered for him very zealously. Sighing, Sarah drank all the water from the glass. She had almost calmed down, but she couldn't accept this situation. No, it wouldn't be like this. She wouldn't accept it. Another plan had formed in her mind. She was going to get revenge on Dr. Miller, and she had to act extremely cautiously so as not to scare off the participants in this drama. There was an operation scheduled for the evening. Sarah prepared for the encounter with Dr. Miller. Seeing the nurse, he frowned. He expected her to avoid him or make a scene, but Sarah calmly greeted him and then said, "There seems to have been some misunderstanding. I apologize for letting you down. I should be more careful in performing my duties. This will not happen again in the future." Dr. Miller smirked arrogantly. He understood that Dr. Baker had brainwashed the nurse, and the surgeon had managed to get away scot-free. "Yes, well, try to make sure this doesn't happen again," he drawled. "The patient almost died because of you. Do you think this is a joke?" "No, dear, this is very serious. I told you not to leave until you finished, and you let me down. You said you checked everything and ran off. There you go. If I had run off like that without finishing the surgery..." Sarah barely contained her anger, wanting to lash out at the arrogant surgeon, but she gathered all her willpower and simply remained silent. The surgery went quickly. Now Sarah performed her duties with redoubled care. She knew she could be framed at any moment. After her shift, she went home. She didn't eat, didn't drink coffee. She just lay down in the dark and fell into a deep sleep. Starting the next day, Sarah began carefully monitoring Dr. Baker and Dr. Miller. Whenever possible, she walked past the chief physician's office, listening for sounds behind the door. Dr. Miller was often in his boss's office, but Sarah couldn't hear anything as she passed by. She needed to confirm the existence of a connection between them, and then the rest would be easy. Deliver the information to Dr. Miller's wife. Sarah learned that the surgeon's wife was named Eleanor, and that she was the daughter of an influential man. If Sarah could prove that Dr. Miller was cheating, he would be in serious trouble. She was counting on this heavily. She also hoped that Dr. Baker would face problems as well. Time passed, but all attempts to find out anything about the relationship between the chief physician and the surgeon remained unsuccessful. Sarah began to lose patience and hope. Would she really not be able to get revenge on her tormentor? Was this fair? She tried her best to remain polite with him, but it became increasingly difficult each day. The resentment and financial damage inflicted upon her were too great. The patient who suffered due to Dr. Miller's fault was discharged. He did not file a complaint against the hospital. At least Sarah was lucky in this regard, and it was unknown how everything would have turned out if the hospital had been sued. 2 months passed, and luck finally smiled on Sarah. She managed to catch Dr. Baker and Dr. Miller. It was late in the evening, and only the on-call teams remained in the hospital. Sarah should have been home long ago, but she was delayed. She had a severe stomach ache and had been lying in the nurse's station for a long time after taking a pill. When she finally felt better, she got ready to go home. As she was walking towards the elevator, she remembered her medical scrubs, which she wanted to take home. She had badly stained the trousers. Sighing, she turned back. Turning the corner of the corridor, she saw from a distance that the door to the chief physician's office was slightly ajar. Sarah frowned and slowed her pace. She noted to herself that it was good she was wearing sneakers. She stopped about a meter from the door. It wasn't possible to see what was happening inside, but the audibility was excellent. Holding her breath, she listened. "But why are you making me jealous?" She heard Dr. Miller's voice. Dr. Baker's playful chuckle was heard. "My dear, what are you imagining?" And then Sarah realized this was her only chance. She cautiously took out her phone, which she always kept on silent mode at work, and turned on the voice recorder to record the conversation. "Why would I be imagining things?" James protested. "That young intern was hanging around your office all day today. Did you decide to trade me in for someone younger?" "Dr. Baker, I'm not your wife. Those kinds of games won't work with me." "Oh, Dr. Miller, are you trying to assert your rights? Look what you've come up with. You have a wife. Order her around. Your Eleanor might tolerate it, but I won't. I'm not your lawful wife for you to order me around." "I will be ordering you around, because you're only here thanks to me. All it takes is a snap of my fingers, and you'll be out of here," Dr. Baker snapped. James laughed. "I like today's games. You'll be my strict mistress today." "Well, I'm ready to carry out everything you command. Only please, let's not talk about my wife anymore. You know that Eleanor holds no interest for me." Dr. Baker giggled. All right, I won't talk about your wife. Go, close the door so no one bothers us." Sarah went completely cold with fear. If either of them looked out of the office now, she would be discovered. Her entire plan would collapse, and her problems would become even more serious. But she was lucky. The door simply closed. The click of the lock was heard. Sarah was able to breathe a sigh of relief. "Oh God, I need to get out of here immediately." She stopped the recording, clutching the phone to herself like a priceless trophy. She cautiously turned and moved away. The further she walked, the faster her steps became. Only when she was in the elevator did she smile, looking at her phone. How lucky she was. It was incredible luck that she managed to overhear that conversation. Now she could get revenge. This would be quite enough for her. "Now you'll get what you deserve from me," she whispered to herself. A few days later, Sarah managed to find out Dr. Miller's wife's phone number. He often left his phone with her to charge, and Sarah took advantage of this. She wanted to send the recording to the surgeon's wife but didn't know how she would react. For several days, she thought about the best way to proceed. A week later, Sarah went on vacation, and on the first day of her vacation, she decided to call James's wife personally. Perhaps the woman wouldn't answer a call from an unknown number, but it was worth a try. To her surprise, she answered immediately. Hello. I'm sorry, we don't know each other, but I know your husband. We work together. I really need to meet with you. Please don't say anything to your husband, otherwise I'll be fired, and I can't afford to lose my job. I beg you, spare me 10 minutes for a meeting. I won't keep you long, but I need to tell you something. It's very important. And once again, luck smiled on Sarah. Eleanor agreed to meet the same day in 2 hours. When Sarah arrived at the small cafe where Eleanor was already waiting, she felt flustered. The young woman was about her age, very attractive, and had sad eyes. What did you want to tell me? Eleanor asked after the greeting. Stuttering, Sarah told Dr. Miller's wife everything and let her listen to the recording. Eleanor listened through headphones with an impassive face. Her eyes didn't blink, she just turned very pale. Taking off the headphones, she looked at Sarah intently. Why do you want this? Why are you doing this? Sarah opened her mouth, not knowing what to say. And then she told the truth. She recounted how Dr. Miller had framed her, how she had suffered, losing most of her earnings, and that she wanted to teach the vile surgeon a lesson. Eleanor nodded and said thoughtfully, My father told me that James was a scoundrel, but I didn't believe my father. I believed James. Recently, I started suspecting something was wrong. I tried to follow him, but he didn't go anywhere, just to work. I couldn't even imagine that he had something going on at work. Well, thank you. I don't think we have anything more to say. Oh, by the way, Eleanor added, I would like to compensate you for the damage caused to you because of my husband. Sarah waved her hands. No, please don't. Nothing is needed. Eleanor nodded. She transferred the recording to her phone, returned Sarah's phone, and stood up. Well, as you wish. Goodbye. For about 10 more minutes, Sarah sat in the cafe, thinking about how her interference in someone else's personal life would turn out. Had she done the right thing? A week later, when Sarah returned to work from her vacation, she learned the latest shocking news. Dr. Baker had been fired and no longer worked at the hospital. It was rumored that she had moved to another city. Dr. Miller had also resigned, and his wife had left him, filing for divorce. No one knew the true reason for what had happened. Everyone speculated about what could have occurred to cause 2 prestigious positions to become vacant at once. She knew that the reason for these changes was herself and her plan for revenge.